Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I want to talk about the latest episode of Star Trek Lower Decks, which was called We'll Always Have Tom Paris. And it was pretty good. It starts out where the replicators on the Cerritos and the doors on the Cerritos aren't recognizing Boimler, even though he's been added back into the system. I guess because it's too recent and the system hasn't caught up, which I don't know. I didn't think that would have happened. I think that if there was someone on board that the system didn't recognize, there would have been an intruder alert that went off. I mean, we've seen where systems on Starfleet ships glitch and don't operate the way they're supposed to, but not like that, not just for like one person. And it's usually, because there's something wrong with the ship, not because a guy is newly returned to the ship. It was a gag. It's a cool gag, but I didn't think it worked within Star Trek. Now, the next thing you see is that the security guy from season 1 is back. I should know his name, but I don't. How is he back? And then Mariner makes a joke about bridge officers are always coming back to life. And I think that's a reference to Spock. But I don't know. They don't really explain it. Let me just get on with it. The doctor lady, the cat person, I guess is a Cation, she sends Tendi on a personal mission to receive an item for her. Meanwhile, Boimler lets everybody know that he has plates of all the Voyager crew, commemorative plates like the ones that exist in real life of Star Trek stuff, the painted plates. He has one of Tom Paris because he has one of all the Voyager crew, and he wants to get it signed by Tom, who is visiting the Cerritos for some reason. And he brings up the whole thing about how he was once turned into a salamander, which is kind of funny. But I guess there was some discussion among the lower decks people about how maybe the security guy could have come back. And they say stuff like, oh, it could be a restored Katra, it's a time ribbon, maybe a Nexus or a future sun. So those are references to Star Trek II and Star Trek Generations and the episode of Next Generation where Worf's son Alexander comes to the Enterprise from the future. So it was just kind of funny that they keep working that stuff in. It turns out that the item that Tendi, who had brought Mariner with her on the mission for the Cation doctor, was a Cation libido post. So I guess they kind of have like a Pon farr thing, and they have to scratch this post to get past it, and that's what she sent Tendi to get. Whatever. But it ends up getting broken, and Mariner says, don't worry about it. I once broke Worf's Maketh when I was serving on Deep Space Nine. And I guess that's the Klingon dagger. It's a ceremonial dagger or a fighting dagger. And I guess in the Timelines game, the Star Trek Timelines game, Worf's Maketh is an item you can get. So I don't know if there's a reference to the game or what, but anyway, that's in there. Next, we see Rutherford trying to figure out how this guy came back, the security guy. He's obsessed by it. And so just as he's about to ask, a different person asks. And the crew reacts like, oh, how do you don't ask that? You don't ask someone about their personal experience of how they came back to life. And so he shies away from asking himself, but it's driving him crazy. Meanwhile, Tendi and Mariner are trying to repair this broken post before they have to bring it back to the doctor, and they try a couple of different things. They end up getting in a bar fight, and it breaks even more. And then back on the Cerritos, Tom Paris shows up, and he's on the bridge, and he says, oh, hi, let me take her for a spin or whatever. And somebody says, okay, but just don't send us to the Delta Quadrant, which, reference to Voyager, ha. Turns out that Tendi has a cousin who works in a thieves' den in a pirate's outpost, and she brings that up because they need someone to fix this post, and she says he can do it. But she mentions exactly where he is because she'd had a conversation with Mariner moments before that led her to have to say to her, what, you think all Orions are thieves and pirates? So it was kind of funny. But what they had to do in order to infiltrate this pirate outpost was make Mariner look like an Orion because they would be pissed if there were humans there. So they, I guess, turn her green somehow. And she tries to talk like a pirate, so that she'll blend in. So she's going, arr, me mateys, and blow me down and all that stuff. And she walks up to, some of the people and she says, Hey there, my fellow Orions, which was kind of funny because that's what you wouldn't want to do, obviously.
How do you do, fellow kids?
But of course, they end up being discovered and they have to escape, and they end up having to let go of the post altogether in order to get out. And it's a disaster, but they end up having a discussion about how Mariner didn't know that Tendi was Tendi's last name and that she has a first name, which I forgot. And she says, I just thought you had no, I thought that was your first name. I thought you didn't have a last name, like Odo, which is hilarious. Back on the Cerritos, we find Boimler climbing his way to the bridge through Jeffries tubes and turbolift shafts and so forth, because none of the doors or turbolifts will work for him. And it was kind of funny because he keeps, running into obstacles and different perils and almost loses the play a couple times. It was kind of funny. Meanwhile, Rutherford finally asks the security guy how he came back from the dead, and he says, I can't really tell you the whole story, but that's only because there are a lot of dark truths and scientific depravities that you don't want to know about. And it's like, okay, so they're not going to explain it, but that's kind of where they leave it. I don't know, whatever. But I guess Rutherford kind of begrudgingly accepts that. By the time Boimler gets to the bridge, he looks all disheveled. His clothes are all torn. He's all dirty and stuff. And Tom Paris mistakes him for a Kazon, and he tackles him saying, look, a Kazon. And he beats him up a little bit, which was kind of funny because Boimler's always getting hurt somehow. Mariner and Tendi return to the Cerritos, and they realize they have to somehow explain how this thing got broken or Tendi's going to get in trouble. So Mariner has the great idea to ram the ship with the shuttlecraft and say it happened in the accident. And so she says, ramming speed, which I guess was a Worf thing from one of the movies and whatever. So that's how she explains it. But it turns out that the Caitian doctor doesn't care about the post, the statue, the post. She just wanted the box, the wooden crate that it was in. And they show her like jumping in it and doing cat things, whatever it is cats do, whatever that is, and just thrilled to death to have the box. And then I guess Boimler meets back up with Mariner, and she says, oh, did you get your bowl signed by Chakotay or whatever? So they brought up a Chakotay reference, and that was pretty much the episode. I liked this one. I thought it was funny. I didn't see too many things that they did which were contrary to how Starfleet officers would behave or contrary to how Starfleet itself would behave. So that was good. There was that thing in the beginning of the episode where, okay, the things don't recognize him, and, it didn't make sense. But it's not a big thing. I can handle that in a scenario where, we're trying to make funny with Star Trek. So I liked it. And I thought they had some good character stuff with Tendi and Mariner, where they kind of talk about how they are on missions together all the time, but always with other people and never just the two of them, and they don't hang out together, so they don't really know each other that well, and I guess they decide to change that, so that was pretty cool. Other than that, these episodes tend to be vehicles for Easter eggs, which, I get it, but I don't know. It's as long as they're not doing stuff that really contradicts Trek lore, I don't mind it. I actually enjoy watching it. It's something, funny. But I don't know, it seems like that's really all they're doing with it. But anyway, it's still early in the second season, which I'm told these first 3 episodes of are actually only the remnants of the first season, that they never really finished the first season because of COVID and stuff, and that we haven't really seen the second season stories yet, but we'll see as it goes on. I'll be back with a review of the next episode. Until then, I depart from you, and I say, as always, peace and long life.